Hey, everybody. I am so excited for this chat today as we dive into the future of satellite IoT with Sateliot, an innovator in this space. Gianluca, how are you?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Well, thanks for being here. It's just an amazing time to talk all things intersection of telecom and space, and you're at the cutting edge. Before that, maybe introduce yourself, your role at the company, and your mission at Sateliot.
Look, so my name is Gianluca Rodolfi. I'm Italian. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer at Sateliot. I'm there since the beginning of Sateliot. And here at Sateliot, what we think our view is that a connected world is the better world. So we strive. What we are looking for every single day is to make connectivity available everywhere for everything and for everybody around the globe. That's what we're trying to do.
Well, that's quite an ambitious mission. And of course, IoT, as we know it, has been around since 1999 as a term of art. So we've come a long way. But what's the big idea behind IoT connectivity from space? What are you hoping to achieve, and how does your network sort of look exactly?
I mean, the story is that we think that the fact that the technology exists doesn't mean that technology is really there for everybody. There are many examples. I mean, if the computer existed from the 50s, but until it has been done in a way where everybody could have access for a really reasonable price, it didn't become really widely adopted. Um, Mobile telephony was also the same. I mean, existed in the 70s, in the 80s, but until it became cheap enough, it has not been adopted by everybody. And typically, this adoption is because of a standard. And when you standardize things, it becomes much more cheaper to produce, and then the adoption goes up and becomes for everybody and for everything. So the idea behind our own company is to extend the coverage of the telecom operators, mobile telecom operators, and to extend their standards also to satellite. If you know, so far, all the satellite industry has been with players that have been building their own satellite under, let's say, proprietary solutions. So you also had to buy their own equipment that you cannot interchange between them, and those equipment are super expensive, are really super expensive because they are produced in low volume. And if you will be able to tap in the ecosystem of the mobile telephony production, then the price of the device goes down a lot. Okay, so if you now can buy a simple phone, a feature phone at maybe $20, or a smartphone at $150, is because it is produced and it can be used basically in every single country of the world. So what we did, we went into the 3GPP organization, which is the organization that set the standards worldwide. We introduced the idea of having an extension of the cellular protocol also to the satellite world back in 2020. It took 3 years to convince the community, to discuss it, and to have it approved. Of course, it's not just our work; it's the work of contribution of all the key players around the world. You can mention some of them that everybody knows. You have Apple, Sony. You have also Qualcomm. You have MediaTek. You have the big telecom operators. You have basically all the ecosystem around the globe, from a company from Asia, Europe, America, and Australia. You have companies from everywhere. We've been the biggest contributor to the new release. The release is extending, which is called 17 NTN, non-terrestrial network. And now it's a reality since a little bit more than 1 year. Meanwhile, in parallel, we've been building satellites. We've been launching the satellites into space, doing the first steps that we test that we also used for the contribution. So the contribution were not contribution just theoretical, but also practical with the test and the results that we've been doing. And now we have the first plane of our constellation. When you launch a constellation, you need to launch different planes to have an appropriate coverage, because those are low Earth orbit satellites, which means that they are flying at around 600 kilometers per hour. And so we launched the first plane. With this plane, we can start the commercial services. And we are the first company that has this new technology, new protocol in space, in history, basically. There's no other LEO constellation that has 5G narrowband IoT NTN. So that's a revolution, because at the end, you don't need, as a customer, as a final customer, you don't need to find to buy a specific device. You can use the cellular one you already have that works on cellular, that has release 70, which is the firmware that is the latest one. And whenever it goes out of coverage of the cellular, it can connect to the satellite. And that's the big change in paradigm, that you don't need to be linked to one satellite operator. You don't need to be linked to a telecom operator. It's a standard. So you basically can have connectivity with the providers, or connectivity that you as a customer, you find more appropriate.
Yeah, it's an amazing value proposition. Almost science fiction like, but of course this is reality now. Very exciting. Maybe you could talk about some of the net new real world applications or use cases, scenarios where you might be making an impact today, or new things that you couldn't do with terrestrial connectivity in the past.
I lost you for a moment. Sorry, Ivan.
Maybe we could talk about some of the net new real world applications or use cases that you're enabling, things that you couldn't do in the past.
Yeah, I can give you some indication, and also some volume. So the key thing here is that so far, if you think about satellite, you think about something expensive. So the application that has been using satellites so far in remote areas, because otherwise you will use cellular, basically are applications or use cases where the connectivity is critical, and the asset you monitoring or define a use case has a certain value, because you need to pay a lot of money. You need to pay $500 to $1,000 dollars for the device, and then maybe $10-20 per month. Okay, so you cannot easily monitor all the pallets you have around the world with this, because it's not that critical. Okay, of course you want to know where the pallets are or where your containers are, but if it costs too much, well, you will not do it, or you will do that with a really small portion of your fleet of trucks or containers. So the key thing here is that we are enabling much more use cases than before. So we're not enabling the critical. They might be staying on the old way of doing satellites for the moment, but all the ecosystem that is already in place. We're talking about, the stats are saying that there are multi-billion IoT devices in the world. Everything is monitored nowadays, in the city, outside the cities, everywhere. They're talking about 4, 5, 6 billion devices that are connected of IoT. So we are enabling those monitoring to be able to exist and to work in the same way, even if there's no cellular connectivity. I'll give you some examples. Agriculture. Agriculture has been improving a lot with the smart agriculture, because now you can monitor basically a lot of things. You can monitor the temperature, you can monitor the moisture of the air, you can monitor the sunlight, the temperature, and so on. So that with all these elements in different parts of the field, you have the information, you have your dashboard, you're a farmer, then you say, okay, now I know what I need to do. I need to put more water here, less water. I need to do this, to do that. And this is working, and it is fantastically improving the production. Now, you cannot do it if you don't have cellular coverage. So what we are basically making happen is taking this same ecosystem and expanding the footprint of the impact they have. Also in the areas where before it was not possible. It was not possible because if you want to monitor the moisture every 100 meters, you cannot put something that costs $1,000. Okay, think that instead of $1,000 now it can cost $10, and instead of $10 to $20, it can cost maybe a couple of dollars per month.
Wow.
The connectivity. So we're talking about a much less expensive. It's a completely different type of game. I can tell you that in volume. So we've been signing so far binding contracts with final customers. I mean, this is public information. We've been telling it many times. So far, IoT by satellite. So in the last 30 years, what has been sold is between 4 to 4.5, maximum 5 million devices that are connected through satellite on IoT. Ourselves, Sateliot, that we started just a few years ago, we already sold more than the double of it in a year and a half. Okay, this is not because we are much better than the others. It's just that the proposition is completely different, and the customers are not not out of the 4 million, are mainly out of the cellular that they want to have extension and keeping doing the same that they're doing on the cellular, but also on areas that are not covered by cellular.
Brilliant. What an exciting time. Tell us about some of the partnerships, maybe alliances and collaborations that have been critical to growing the business, and what does your go-to-market look like? How does that work within the ecosystem?
Also here we're doing something quite different. Historically, all the satellite operators, they've been going to the market, let's say directly. If you want to buy something from the other satellite operators, you typically go all directly over the distributors. We thought it was much better since we are naturally the extension of the mobile network operators. We always thought that the natural go-to-market would be to go through the telecom operators. So what we are doing, basically, we are like a roaming partner of the telecom operators. And whenever there's no cellular coverage around the world, all those customers or telecom operator that signed with us, they can roam into our network. So that their customer, instead of connected to the cell tower, they connect to our cell towers in space, and then we connect back to the telecom operator. So that's our go-to-market. We've been quite successful. We've been signing now, and we have partners in more than 60 countries in the world. So we cover basically all the countries in all the continents. So I think it's been quite received quite successfully, quite positively, and that's amazing how you can make it simple to connect and how you can improve the digitization of the countries. Because telecom operators, by definition, the cellular license that every telecom operator has in basically every country of the world, their mission is to cover where the population is and where the human beings are going. So basically roads. That's basically the targets they have over several years to go to 99, 95, 99.5, 99.8, 99.9, whatever is the target in each country. IoT is a bit different. IoT can exist and is required in many places where there are no human beings, and that's the gap that we try to close. And it's not just enhancing productivity; it is also reducing the emission of CO2, the usage of water, and also saving lives. I mean, if you think, I don't know, I'll give you some examples that we are working on, which is avalanches in the mountains,
Mm.
or fire prevention that is a big issue around the globe. I mean, if you look at even in the U.S., in California, or in other places in Europe and other places in the world, you can put devices, but if the device costs $2,000 all in all, or if the device costs $50, well, you can put 20 times more. So it's a question also of making this really easily available, and make it adopted. Okay,
That's
I give you, I
wonderful.
mean, another example. I mean, I like to sail, and actually, if you sailing and you go. I'm back.
Okay.
I don't know.
Um,
Not a good connection. I hope you can edit it and cut the.
yes. Well, thanks. Yeah, so many amazing use cases. Maybe you could talk about bridging the gap today in connectivity. How much of the globe are you covering today, and how do you get to full coverage at some point in the future?
Okay, now, in terms of coverage, a LEO constellation covers 100% of the planet.
Mm,
So we cover 100% of the planet,
mm.
technically, because our satellites are flying over every single place on Earth. Now, this is not happening all the time for the moment. So the more satellites we launch, the less you need to wait to have a second satellite passing over you. Okay, so we have this polar orbit, so they are going North Pole, South Pole, North Pole, South Pole every 90 minutes. This is LEO. So now we have 4 satellites that are operational and commercial. We are launching the rest of the constellation in the next 2 years. And with that, we're going to go and get to basically every minute and real-time connectivity. Now we can offer a daily service of few messages per day, which is in some use cases is more than enough. So we are seeing that there's a big market also with a few messages per day.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Maybe you can talk about the process of bringing on new customers and partners. I'm headed to CES in Las Vegas, where this will be a big topic. For example, I'm getting a briefing from John Deere, who, I know that they're deploying IoT across their tractors and other networks and customers. How long and how difficult is it to connect, their networks, devices like a tractor? Is that the kind of use case you foresee? Is this a project that takes weeks or months to get started?
Well, I mean, there are always different stages. So, especially if it's a big customer, the internal process of taking a decision, starting a project, can take a while, which is out of our scope. Then, in terms of integration, if the final customer is already using IoT on cellular, there's basically no time needed
Mm,
to also use it on satellite. Because the same devices, when I have release 17, they are by definition, in a native way, dual mode. So they can be on cellular and they can be on also on satellite. So I would say it's quite pretty quick, the adoption. We know nothing is plug and play, but it's quite quick. It's not having a completely different type of equipment, or it's not. You don't need to choose between cellular and say, okay, this is on cellular, this is on satellite. It's exactly the same one that works on cellular and on satellite, which is quite useful because most of the time the final customer doesn't know, especially if
Mm.
a connected thing, you don't know where it's going to be. You cannot have too many things. You just want to have one thing that is always working. If you are in the center of the city, or if you are lost in the desert. Yeah.
Brilliant. Great opportunity out there. So as you know, data security and data protection, encryption, these are huge topics these days, and geopolitical topics. How do you think about, secure connectivity at scale, and what are your requirements there?
This is part of the protocol that, I mean, it's part of the GSM. So this is if you feel secured enough, and the encryption is done in the same way as cellular on terrestrial, we are the same level. Actually, the information goes. We are really transparent, so we don't see the data ourselves. We
Mm,
are just taking the encrypted data of the final customer and take it back to the telecom operator. To say it maybe in a simpler way, it's the same roaming. If you would go from the US and you would go traveling to Paris, you're connected with the Orange, and then you talk. That's the same type of security. It's cellular security, and we consider, and I mean, we didn't have any problem with this, and we see that this is fairly enough for the application that are using the systems.
brilliant.
Yeah.
So we're in the holiday period now, but it'll be a busy 2025. I personally, I'll be at CES, and then in your neck of the woods in Barcelona for Mobile World Congress. But what else are you looking forward to? What's on your radar as we head into the new year?
Oh, it's going to be an incredible year, 2025. We've been working for many years to make it happen. The designing satellites, building, launching, testing, and make it working and available commercially. It's a long way. Uh, even more if you start with the unclosed standard, so that what you build, it has to be standard, and the standard is not defined, add complexity. So we passed through all of it, and 2025 looks really challenging for us. But at the same time, we see a very bright future on commercially, technically. Uh, 25 is going to be a completely different year, especially for the company that have IoT in specific area of the countries of the world where they don't have enough coverage. So we look at it very positively.
Well, it's an amazing transformation. I can't believe I started my career in paging
Oh
35
wow!
years ago, and so
It's
look how
IoT.
far we've
It's
come
IoT.
from pagers to IoT from space. What a journey it has been. Thanks so much for joining, Gianluca. Onwards and upwards, literally, and congratulations on all the success.
Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me.
And yeah, thanks
Thank you.
everyone for listening, watching, and sharing. And see you at
Thank
Mobile World
you.
Congress. Take care.
Thank you.